Hey guys, welcome to today's video. In this video, we are going to understand a creational design pattern called the builder pattern. So let's get started. So as classes grow in size, one common problem is that you will end up with large constructors where you have to pass in a lot of different parameters. So let's take an example of a class that represents a person. A person can have a lot of different attributes. For example, they can have first name, last name, email, gender, and so on. So some of the attributes could be mandatory and other could be optional. So for example, let's say a person has to have a first name and a last name, but they don't have to have a middle name, email address, and so on. So one time when I'm creating the person object, I might want to create with a first name, middle name, and a last name. And my constructor would look something like this. And another time I might want to create one with the first name, last name, email, and salary. So, and my constructor would look something like this. So there are a lot of possible combination I could have. So let's assume that a person object is immutable. This means once I have set these fields and when I create the person object, I can't come back and change them later. So how might the constructor of a person object would look like in Java code? It might look like something like this with a long list of things that I need to pass into the constructor, and for the optional ones I have to pass null. So there are quite a few problems with this. It's quite messy. It's easy to get the things in the wrong order. And if you look at the example of how this code looks when the constructor is called, it's almost impossible to know what things are being passed in. And it would be really easy to pass the wrong parameter in the wrong place. So what's the alternative? So the other option is to create different constructor for all the different combinations, but this is not practical either, and you will end up with a lots of different constructor, one for each combination, and that would be really hard to maintain and read, right? So another solution to this problem is the builder pattern. So in this pattern, you have a separate class that is used to construct the object using just the fields that you want, and this class is called builder. In the traditional pattern, there is an interface for builder and then a concrete implementation. The person is the class that would otherwise have the big constructor, and the director is the class that uses the builder to create the object. So in Java, it is normally possible to simplify this pattern by just directly calling the concrete builder class without the interface. So let's see in code how this pattern would look like. So now let's see. So this is my person class which has all the attributes which we discussed just now: first name, middle name, last name, age, gender, address, phone number, email, and salary. And this is our this huge constructor that traditionally we could have. And if we call this constructor, it's easy to get things in the wrong order, right? And I have created a toString object so that it will print the person object, right? And we have one more class called person generator. So what it does, it creates a person object and add it to show person. Show person does nothing, just it prints out that person object, right? So if we run this, so we'll get two person object. One is John and another one is Radha, right? So now if you see over here, first name and the last name are the mandatory ones. So we need to have these two, right? And others could be null, like address could be null, here email could be null. So we can create a number of permutation and combinations. So now to implement the builder pattern, what we need to do, we need to have a builder class. So it is a kind of traditional way how we create a class. So you can create so to create a builder class, what I'll do, I'll create a static class inside a person itself. Why I'm doing like this? So that we can create the object of this person builder only via this person class. Okay, so I'll just create a static class called person builder. So usually this is how it should be, the name of the class and appending the builder to it. Okay, so it is giving me the intelligence. So we will add all the fields what we have in our person class. Okay, so now what we will do, so till this much is fine. So now we will create a constructor, okay, a person builder, okay, where we will pass only the things which are mandatory. So in our case, the first name is the mandatory field and the last name is the mandatory field, okay. So these two will be mandatory for us, right? And we are initializing it like this, okay. Now for other thing, what we will do, we will create a method which will return us a person builder object, okay, and we'll use the same name as the field and we will append it. So if we pass the age parameter, we will initialize the age in the class like this and we will return this. So what we are going to return, so we are going to return the person builder object. We will do it with all the fields which are non-mandatory. So why we are doing this, I'll show you why. So once we do for all the other stuff, okay, so why we are returning the person builder every time? Because we will build on top of one another. Suppose when we want to have only age, then we will get the age, we will add, initialize the age and we will return the person builder. So that the second time when we call the gender, we will call it on top of person builder. So every time it will call on the top of person builder and it will return the person builder object, okay. It will be much simpler when I'll show you in action. And at last we will create a class, a method called build. So it will return new person object, okay, where we need to pass first name, address, so all the things, okay. So now we can go to person generator class, right? So we will comment this out. So we will have person one, and now how we will create new of person builder, okay. So we need to pass first name and last name as mandatory field, right? John Doe, okay. So now this is returning me the person builder, but we need to have a return type of a person, right? Now this person builder, when we do dot, so we can add salary also. So here we have age and email, right? So what we will do, we will add age, which is 40, on top of it email, okay, a@be.com. Now on top of it gender, which is male. Now on top of it phone number, okay, so it is 1234, and salary, okay, so it is 1 lakh. So these many things. So every time when we do a dot operation top of it, we are returning a person builder, right? So we are returning a person builder, we are returning a person builder over here, right? Now when we do at last dot build, so that build is returning me the person object, right? So now this becomes a person object, right? Now similarly in the case of second person, I'll just recreate. Okay, now if I rerun this, sorry, this is twice. So if I rerun this, so we are getting the same thing, right? Not a slightest difference, okay. But the thing is that, so it solves one thing, that you can have as less or as many parameters you want for creating your person object. But one thing is that we wanted to avoid altogether passing this big constructor thing. But here as well it is same for us. Like we are still in the same situation that we have a lot of different parameters over here, even though it is better than the previous one, but still we have a lot of different parameters which we are passing right now, right? So what we are going to do, we are going to change this constructor. So instead of passing this huge data, okay, so instead of passing this huge data, still we are going to pass person builder object over here, okay, and we can take from the builder these data, okay. Okay, and now if we have changed this, now then we need to change this constructor as well. So instead of passing these many parameters, we can just pass this belongs to person builder, okay. So now the huge constructor line what we had, we have avoided it, right? Now if we rerun this, we'll get this still the same output but with much lesser and neat code. So this is how the builder pattern is implemented. Hope you understood it. See you in the next. Thank you.